Good morning, everybody who's joining. Happy Friday. We will give everybody just a couple minutes to get joined in here. As you join, I am going to allow for you to unmute yourself and talk if you so choose. We do want it to be interactive, so definitely feel free to do that. And happy Friday morning. It is still Friday, right? Yes.
Hopefully.
And a long weekend with President's Day.
Yes.
Yeah. Beautiful thing.
With decent weather too, maybe add.
That always helps.
Yeah.
That always helps.
Patrick, have you made the move yet?
I have not. I'm
Okay.
still I don't know if I mentioned my wife's gonna have a baby first. Then we're gonna list the house. We've got an intense order of events that need to happen here.
That's like all you need to do is change your occupation. Well, you're doing that too. You're going from a seller to a tech, so you hit all the 3 buckets.
Only make major life changes in bunches. That's
exactly.
I thought you were just trying to savor the rest of the weather up there.
Yeah, actually, it's not too bad up here now, but I don't trust it. I feel like we're gonna get tricked and go back to winter.
It was one good week, and then goes the crazy weather.
Well, you're in Toronto, right, Paul?
I am actually out in Virginia.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought you were in Canada. Okay.
Another SE, Dan.
Gotcha. Well, Virginia should be a little warmer than Canada this time of year.
I'm originally from California, so anything is cold to me now. I was spoiled for sure.
Yeah, man.
Right. We will give just a few more minutes for people to join. But good, happy Friday morning. Wow. Glad I got that out early. Good, happy. Oh, I did it again. All right. Happy Friday. Gotta love it.
You need one more cup of coffee there, Harvey?
Maybe 2. Espresso.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm not even a coffee drinker, so I don't know where that.
Well, there's your problem.
Yeah, maybe.
Been diagnosed.
Maybe.
Dr. Alex in the house.
Yeah, I took a couple biology classes in college, so that certifies me as a PhD. So.
Well, I want to talk to the guy that stayed at a Holiday Inn last night.
Have y'all test driven that Bronco yet?
So it is in, as far as I know, it is in the Charlotte area. It did get delivered from Raleigh, and I think somebody did drive it, but I don't know for sure. but it is real. It is there. It is green. Yeah.
It looks good. I saw some photos of it, but
I'm ready.
I'm
I'm ready
hoping
for
it
a
still
test
looks the
drive.
same as when it was wrapped up, you know, after
Yeah.
that first test drive. I would be tempted to go off road immediately with that.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. We got to make sure we keep Andy's hands off of it too. We've got a customer up near the Urari Trail that likes to go off-roading a lot. So we got to make sure that we don't get those two together and have them test drive, you know, do some testing with the Bronco up there.
Yeah, some lucky winner will be unhappy if it doesn't come back all in one piece.
Right.
No, that's an awesome, you know, carrot out there. So if you're looking at a Nutanix solution or one of the other XenTegra solutions, you know, it's a pretty awesome reward to
Absolutely.
go. I'm still a sucker for like a 69 or one of those early Broncos that first came out, but these look pretty similar, so
Right.
I'm loving them.
All right. I think we can go ahead and get started. I don't see any other people joining at the second. So good Friday morning. Got it right that time. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a good mix of some technical genius on the call and some salespeople as well. So we've got plenty of Nutanix knowledge for you guys today, hoping for a very good, very interactive session. And so I've already made it so that any of you would be able to kind of unmute yourself and talk. So definitely feel free to interrupt us and ask questions as we get into it. But happy Friday. Paul, you can go ahead to the first couple of slides. This is the core technology bootcamp for Nutanix for AOS and AHV. I like to call it Nutanix 101. Want to make sure that we get you guys on the track to get some of this in your data center. But first, we need to show it to you and let you know how to use it. So the agenda here is we've got a couple of introductions, and we'll talk about who is XenTegra. We'll talk a little bit about the Bronco. I'm sure that'll come up a time or two. And after that, we will jump into getting you guys some knowledge and then some hands-on labs so that you can actually experience this so that, you know, you'd be able to move forward. Look, it's the Bronco. So we are giving away a Bronco. It is happening in May of this year. It is, I guess, forest green. Should I go with that for those of you who have seen it? It is forest green. It is right now in the Charlotte area, and it is shiny and waiting on somebody to go out there and tear something up with it. So if you haven't already, head out to bronco.zentegra.com and sign up there. Hopefully you can be the winner, and hopefully I can get with you for a test drive. At least a picture. Come on. We'll talk through a couple of, you can go ahead, Paul. We talked through a couple of things about XenTegra. We are a value-added reseller, emphasis on the value-added. We can provide a bunch of the services you need, as well as the sales for the hardware and software. So we pride ourselves on being sort of an end-to-end type organization here, to be able to help you from, from the data center out, or from your public cloud out. You'll hear a lot more about that as we go through this, and how that meshes with Nutanix as well. This is a picture on the right of our founder and CEO, Andy Whiteside, who basically was in a role with Citrix as a sales engineer and hopped out on his own when he decided that the partner landscape wasn't being as helpful to customers as it could be. And so he made sure that he started his company, and made sure that we do things like we're doing today, where we all jump on and get some knowledge together and get some experience together at no cost to you, just some time, that you spend with us today. So as a team, we added it up, kind of shocked everybody. We've got more than 700 years of end user compute experience on the ZenTegra team. That is a whole lot. So we've been actually adding to that. I don't think we've got Patrick on the call here, Patrick Toner. He's come over with some years of experience too that I don't even think are in this number. So
yeah, big number though.
Yes. And so we're adding to it every day, and using that experience to help you guys with designing your environments and helping you through it. This is a quote from Andy, which I've kind of covered a little bit, but ZenTegra was born out of a need for customer enablement and true partnership. We very much believe in actual true partnership. We are not the outfit that's going to sell you something and say, all right, see you in 3 years when your renewals due. That's not us at all. We will have conversation through the entire time with you. We are very much dedicated to make sure that you get everything that you can out of the investment that you put into your data center, your software, your equipment, even your training, your techs, your team as a whole. So we want to make sure that we do everything that we can to actually be a true partner to you, and walk with you through the ups and the downs, and try to do what we can to help you smooth that out. We've won many awards for our approach. This is actually a picture from winning Citrix Worldwide Partner of the Year a couple of years ago. My COVID years, man, it's very hard for me to keep up with dates and how long things were ago now, because I don't know, it snatched a lot from us. Anyways, we've won awards with Citrix, with IGEL, so we're working on our one with Nutanix. But just wanted to make sure you guys know that we are multifaceted. We we'll get to the partners that we partner with as well, vendor partners, but we're very much serious about making sure that you get what you need, and we like it. It's nice to be recognized for it by the vendors, but much more important for us to be recognized by you.
Harvey, it feels a little bit like the blip if you're a Marvel fan. The 5 years gone and back. Man,
that's been,
what it feels like. Holy cow.
That's been crazy. Yeah. Events.XenTegra.com is where you can go to check out all of our events that we host. Some will be like this, that are workshops that have hands-on. Others we do webinar Wednesdays. Every Wednesday we talk about a different technology that is not hands-on, so it's much less time, but you're still hopefully getting a very action-packed hour out of that. And we also do a lot of, we started back doing a bunch of in-person events pretty much everywhere. So again, check out events.XenTegra.com and see what's going on in your area, see what you can, how you can join us. Webinars.XenTegra.com, kind of just talked a little bit about our webinar Wednesdays. You can go there to look at what technologies we are discussing. We've got one every Wednesday of the year. So we will definitely have these. But I host some, Patrick hosts some. We got a couple of other SEs that host as well. So yeah, podcast.XenTegra.com is where we put all of our podcasts that we do. I think at this point we are up to 7 or 8. I do a Nutanix one every week. We've got one for a bunch of other different technologies. You can check out podcast.XenTegra.com and see what speaks to you. So talking through kind of what I hit on a little bit ago, we are very much invested in our customers. We have a diverse customer base, which you can kind of see reflected by this slide. You'll see, TV to utilities to hospitals, banks. What else we have here? Tire makers with Continental, education, Florida Atlantic. So you can see we got a very, very diverse set of customers. We've got lots of people in that over 700 years of experience that came from a bunch of different backgrounds. So we are very much ready, willing, and able to help you no matter what vertical you're coming from. So again, kind of who is XenTegra? We are a value-added reseller. We do have and offer services to you that can be consulting services, that can be managed services, that can be hosting services. And we do focus very much on actually working with you to craft solutions. We are very solutions-oriented company in that way as well. So not just selling you one-off things and again, just saying, hi, see you later, We're very much interested in making sure that we give you solutions. I see a hand raised. Pete, how can we help? Oh, let me, there you go, allow you to talk. All right. Pete, did you have a question? Oh, oops, no, okay. No problem. And that was actually a great little reminder there. Just if you guys do have a question, you want to jump in some way, don't be afraid to come off mute and ask the question or raise your hand or do whatever it is you want to do to get our attention. I will stop or do my best to stop. But yeah, feel free to make this as interactive as you want it to be. We appreciate you spending time with us today. We appreciate it even more if you jump in and make sure that you get all of your questions answered regardless of what they are. So jumping back into this, this is a better breakdown of the solution services and reseller portions of our business. And at the bottom, this kind of very much puts it together. We offer multiple solutions. We're a single vendor, a single point of contact for you. We very much understand that it takes a lot of different pieces in order to create the masterpiece that you're creating on your side with what you're using to host out to your end users. And we are dedicated to making sure that you've got somebody that you can come to that can kind of see the whole field and not just the very specific point solutions. Like the Nutanix team does a great job with Nutanix. They do a great job with being able to touch some of the other technologies that touch them or that are a piece of that puzzle for you. But if we get all the way down to, okay, well, how do I do my, I don't know, random, my profile for my group policy, right? That's not something you should expect Nutanix to help you through. So we can definitely, fill that void with making sure that all the pieces work together. Partners.XenTegra.com. I'm having a day today. Partners.XenTegra.com is where you can go to check out all of the vendor partners that we work with, like Nutanix. and you can take a look through there. If you see any of the vendor partners that you actually work with as well, I'll be more than happy to have a conversation with you about those vendor partners as well as Nutanix. And again, we're very focused on making sure that all of the pieces fit together for you. So that you can see at partners.zentegra.com all of the puzzle pieces that we work with, that we will be able to help you craft a more complete solution around. XenTegra Connect is our hosting and managed services arm of XenTegra. They are based in Alpharetta, Georgia, which for those of you familiar is right outside of Atlanta. And from there, you can go to the next slide, Paul. I think we've got more on them. Okay, we don't. So from there, we do have our support organization there is 24/7, 365, all US resources. We have hosting services that they perform for us as well as managed services that they can perform for you. So this is a good look at our cloud partners. And we've got a bunch listed on here. You can kind of start seeing the picture that we can put together for you, that I've been painting as well. And we do have, I think, Paul, on the next slide, we've got more, well, I thought we did have more of our other partners. But again, partners.zentegra.com is where you can go to check out all of our partners. XenTegra staffing is I say newer. This is again the COVID time getting to me. It's a newer offering that XenTegra has, but we've been doing it for a few years at this point. Jobs.zentegra.com is where you can go to check out the offerings that we have today that are open. We also are able to help you staff for any openings you have within your organization. So definitely reach out to us and we can help you fill the void that you've got in your staff as well. Go ahead next to the next one. Yep, micro assessment. So we do a free micro assessment for our customers, and we will do that across a bunch of different technologies. Does not cost you anything. You'll spend, up to a half a day with one of our engineers to go through the technology that we're doing the assessment on, and we will come back to you with actual written recommendations and a conversation around the findings that we had, along with some recommendations to help you move your environment to the next level. Again, that does not cost you anything, and at that point you can do whatever you want with those recommendations. You can ask us to help you take care of them. You can take care of them yourself, or you can just ball up that sheet of paper and throw it away. Totally up to you. Does not cost you anything. No real risk for you there. Calls to action. Talk through. Sorry, Paul. We can help you plan to get from where you are to where you need to go. We can quote out the technologies and software that will help you do it, or the services that will help you do it. We'll be more than happy to demo any of the technologies that we talk with you about, any of the vendor partners that you see at partners.zentegra.com. And we can also provide services for all of those vendors as well. So we pride ourselves to being an end-to-end shop here. So we very much want to make sure that you keep us in the mix for what you're doing, and that we can help get you from where you are to where you want to be. That is a good picture of XenTegra. Any questions that anybody has about anything I just went over? I said a lot. This is where I'll stop saying words so you can ask questions.
Harvey's got the voice for radio and the face for print. So
nice.
Cool. So let's transition over to Nutanix. Good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Nguyen, Senior System Engineer with Nutanix, and I work alongside with Alex Kluger. Alex, you want to say hi?
I didn't even do introductions, man. You just let me roll.
Oh, no worries. No worries. Alex, you want to do a quick introduction?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Paul. Alex Kluger with Nutanix. I am the channel sales manager. XenTegra is one of the partners I support nationally. It's been a lot of fun watching them grow and continue the Nutanix partnership, and be at the highest tier of certifications with us. So excited to be on the call and join in on the conversation when it makes sense. But again, on the sales side with Paul, and happy to help with any questions.
Cool. And again, any questions, concerns, please either put in the chat or feel free to open your mic and discuss as well. I do like to have it open discussion. Harvey and I, we're two nice guys. We won't bite. Please keep it interactive. Makes the job a little more fun as well.
Yes.
Just throw everything my way. And
Paul, before you jump in, we've got a couple of special guests that we need to get some introductions on.
Good.
I'll start first with Mr. Dan Baker, if you can unmute and do a little intro.
He's a Canadian. We'll excuse him.
Yeah. He's frozen. All right. I'll wait for Dan to come back, I guess. We also have with us Mr. Patrick Toner, who I kind of talked about a couple times. But Patrick, will you give the folks an introduction to yourself, sir?
Sure, I'd love to. Yeah, so Patrick Toner, I'm a solutions architect with Zentegra. I came on board back in November. Actually, was with iGel for about 4 years before that, and before that I was in healthcare. So really glad to be on board today. And not just one thing. I'm kind of a testimonial type guy. I'll say, one thing I've always appreciated and why I'm here at Zentegra is when I was with iGel, right, I could only focus on one technology, but it was always nice having a partner, like a true partner that has expertise in the whole stack, whether it's Citrix or something like Nutanix, things that affect other technologies. So anyway, I'm a big fan of Nutanix, happy to be here today, and looking forward to learning with Paul here. So nice to meet you guys.
All right. Paul, back to you.
No worries. Cool. So let's dive right into Nutanix 101. To truly understand Nutanix, I'm going to have to take a step backwards a little bit to explain the journey and where Nutanix is headed towards as a company. As you guys might know or not know, so we're known as a hyperconvergence infrastructure company, but we are moving a little above past that, even above our competitors. We're heading towards a hybrid cloud company, and it all makes sense throughout the presentation. But where we came out to be, right? Normally, as customers, when I go to customer sites, this is what I normally see as I want to call it legacy infrastructure, but this is what we want to modernize it towards to with Nutanix and HCI and the hybrid cloud. You'll see normally customers, you guys would have a traditional 3-tiered environment. You can have your network, your server, virtualize it, and you have your point SAN solution as a 3-tiered environment. The 3-tiered environment does come with a couple of challenges. I call it the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, you're going to spend mostly on managing that infrastructure, then actually manage your apps and what actually makes your company revenue, or if you're federal government, what hits your mission goals, right? With the 3-tiered environment, you're going to have specialized skills, careful integration, because you might have 3 different vendors, well, there's 3 different silos, right? Networking might be Cisco, your servers might be Dell servers, your stores might be NetApp. That's 3 different vendors that you have to integrate together. That could cause long planning cycles, patching. You're going to make sure all 3 environments work together. With a 3-tiered environment as well, there's also communication issues, right? For example, if you're a DBA or a VM admin, you need more storage for that VM. You're going to have to reach out to the storage team, right? Which is a completely different team. What if they're out on vacation? It's going to take you time for them to come back and carve out a storage or a LUN for you to, or a data store for you to build out more VMs. So 80% of your time is being spent on not what your company goals are, but we want to change that, right? So what Nutanix did is we collapsed a 3-tier environment into a 2U appliance. So that includes your network, your storage, and your server and your virtualization all in a 2U appliance packaged for you as a turnkey solution right out of the box. We can use Nutanix as a software. So our appliances, we can put the software on any appliance you like. You can see there's our kind of our key partnerships with HPE, Lenovo, IBM, Cisco, or Dell EMC. If we need to expand and grow, we'll just add more appliances or more servers. And on top of that, we'll add your virtualization layer. We do have a virtualization platform called AHV built into the product if you need to just run an environment. But for whatever reason, you're still using EXXI or Hyper-V, you can use that as well. So we are hypervisor agnostic, but built into the product when you purchase it is our own hypervisor as well. So we're truly giving you a cloud-like experience, everything turnkey and built into 2U appliance that you guys can purchase. You see K8 there as well, so we can work with containers. Again, we have a container orchestration built in, but if you need more functionality and whatnot, we do partner heavily with Red Hat for OpenShift. Cool. Again, we're integrating compute, storage, virtualization, network, and security all bundled together in that 2U appliance, whichever OEM platform you like. Nutanix is a software solution. Cool. I kind of saw this picture on the left there from the internet. I thought it was kind of funny, or not funny, because I have seen this at customer sites and data centers. I use work at data center myself, carrying a white label around, labeling everything, right? But yeah, this mess is everyone's worst nightmare and what keeps us up at night, where all cables are connecting into. You can easily get lost in there, like the guy there in the picture.
Yeah, that brings back memories. Bad
PTSD,
memories.
yeah. But you can see on the right-hand side is one of our customers. You can see how neat and clean. Less wires connected, because again, we're collapsing that 3-tier environment. Mm-hmm. You can see that on the right-hand side with all those many Nutanix servers. Cool. For any of your IT admins out there, you'd be familiarized with what you see on the left-hand side. If you need to manage your infrastructure, you have multiple windows, multiple GUIs, interfaces with different vendors to manage out your whole entire infrastructure. With Nutanix, it's all packaged under one pane glass of view. So you can see all your analytics of your servers, your compute, how much storage you have, your network, all in a single pane glass of view, which we call prism element. And that can manage your whole entire cluster, your infrastructure. It is HTML5. You can see there it's web-based. Anywhere you have connectivity, you can manage your infrastructure, either at work, at home. I've seen people logging in their Tesla, on their phone, what have you. Cool. So this is going towards, so the first step is modernizing infrastructure with HCI. Like I alluded to, we are moving towards a hybrid cloud company model. So we're not one single solution or one single product company, right? We're a solution vendor. Nowadays, we're seeing a lot of shift over to public cloud and on-prem as well as a hybrid cloud infrastructure model. There's certain work cases where you want to put application on the public cloud, and then there's certain work cases that or workloads that you want to put on-prem to be more secure and hold that data near and dear. We can do both. So with the public cloud, we can put our software on AWS and Azure coming soon. Everything will be managed under Nutanix Prism Element software. So multi-cloud management, you can manage multiple clouds with a single click, with a single graphical user interface. Most importantly, you can move workloads and applications throughout the cloud environment. So if you realize there's one application on-prem that you want to move out to the cloud for that elasticity, we do that data migration as well, and vice versa, moving data out of the public cloud to on-prem. How do we do so, right? It's through a product called Nutanix Cluster product. What it is we're putting our AOS software on top of AWS bare metal. All of AWS's services will be included as well that you can work with, including their VPCs, their RDS, Lambda, what have you. Reasons why you want to have a hybrid cloud environment is for lift and shift environments, that on-demand elasticity, and you have all that cloud native services with AWS, and we can do business continuity. We do have built-in connectors where we can replicate or send backups directly into S3 and you can move to Glacier, and vice versa. I'll take a quick pause there for everyone to digest that information. Questions, concerns, comments on the hybrid cloud and Nutanix? Cool.
All right, I guess everybody fully understands this.
Again, this slide here is the hammer home that we are a software company and we're vendor agnostic. Hypervisor of choice, everything is freedom of choice, right? Again, AHV is built in, but you can still use VMware or Hyper-V. We have seen a large adoption rate with AHV nowadays. We're seeing about 70% of customers switching over to AHV. Hardware platform choice as well. We do have our own OEM appliance, but we can work with Dell, Lenovo, Cisco, HPE, and IBM. Cloud, we actually do have our own cloud platform called Nutanix Xi. But again, AWS, Azure, we can do as well. Cool. So Nutanix, there is Nutanix even a deeper dive through web scale architecture. Our founder, Dheeraj, actually came from Google. So as you know, Google holds petabytes and petabytes of data. They realized really quick that they're having trouble expanding and growing because of that large data sets. What they did is they created their own Google file system, software-defined storage, right? So their approach was to create white label servers and keep adding to it and create one large software-defined pool of resources. So if they need to expand, they just have to add in a node or a server. If something breaks, they'll take it out and swap so they can fail fast, recover fast, and grow fast. We took that same approach and we packaged it into a 2U appliance into Nutanix and make it easier consumable to the mid-market and enterprise customers like yourselves. So you're truly getting that Google Cloud experience on-prem out of the box with Nutanix. You see our distributed storage fabric that is built around the Google file system, so it's very similar. That's where we software define all of our resources from there. So that's where we're going to do our snapshots, cloning, data tiering, compression, dedupe, data resilience. Data locality is a big term with Nutanix I'll get into. But also you can see here on the slide something that's highlighting there called the CVM. That is kind of the secret sauce of hyperconvergence and Nutanix specifically. CVM stands for Controller Virtual Machine. So how we started, our claim to fame was VDI. If any VDI users out there know or ever experienced a boot storm effect, let's say, for example, you have a very fast all-flash storage, right? But usually storage comes with 2 controllers. What if you have 100 servers, 1,000 VMs, all trying to log in, or 1,000 VDI users all trying to log in all at once? No matter how fast your SAN is, that's a bottleneck in the networking with those 2 controllers. I've used it before, and that happened. I'll type something out, right, and then 5 minutes later I'll start typing. Kind of scary. Yeah. So people are experiencing that boot storm, that lag effect because of that bottleneck controllers. We took that a step further, so we virtualized those controllers on every single node. That opens up more swim lanes, more I/O. Think of a house having more doors to enter. So our claim to fame at the beginning was VDI for that purpose and reason, and why CVM is very important to us. We've gone a long way from just VDI, right? We can do mission criticals, we can do Splunk data, machine learning, databases, what have you, and we'll build it right into Nutanix infrastructure. But take note of the CVM, how it's virtualized on every node. The Prism element also resides on the CVM. So any of you have any EXI customers who ever experienced a vCenter outage, with us, every CVM, you can log in and manage the infrastructure. If one CVM goes down, you still have something to log into and manage the infrastructure. Question, concern, comments on the slide, or our Nutanix web scale approach architecture?
So I'll just say for everybody listening, this is a very, very, very important slide that we'll come back to, because this is foundational. These are things that you need to know. This is, like Paul said, this is the secret sauce behind making sure that you're getting the best performance and resiliency out of your platform.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And this platform, again, like I mentioned, you can put any workload as you like into Nutanix platform. We do size and build out per workload basis. VDI is a huge workload for us. That's I guess our claim to fame. Citrix just announced that we're their #1 platform of choice to use. So that's very huge because Citrix doesn't really announce those kind of things. Right, we can put Red Hat containers on there, databases, Oracle, SQL. We do have a database as a service product as well that you can manage that database infrastructure for you, automated patching, and what have you, provisioning with databases as well into the product.
So Paul, we did get a question through. Is the CVM an equal to ESX for any host?
So ESXX, right, is a hypervisor. Our hypervisor is AHV. The CVM acts like a VM that sits on top of your hypervisor per se, but it takes a very minimal hit into your environment. And we size for that as well before we size your workload and your total solution. Yeah. Good question. Good question. Yep. It's separate from the AOS, or sorry, it's separate from the hypervisor. Cool. Any other question, concern, comments? Cool. And feel free to take notes and ask afterwards or during the lab. We'll be sticking around for Q&A as well. Cool. This is just one example of an appliance. This actually runs on.
I'm going to pause you. We did have one more question come in.
Perfect.
And the question was, is each CVM hypervisor specific?
No, it doesn't matter what hypervisor. You can run on any. So AHV, EXI, or Hyper-V. Yeah, again, it's just treated as like a normal CVM. Oh, sorry, a normal VM. Cool. So this is an example of one model. This is the Supermicro appliance. You can see there, it's a this one has 4 blades or nodes in a single chassis, or what we call a block. We do have single node blocks as well if you guys need, or 2 nodes, but there's many different type of models and appliances we can go. We have CPU heavy to storage heavy as well. So when you talk to your SE, we'll build that accordingly to your needs. But you can see this is what you're purchasing. It's a 1 block with 4 nodes. Each node has their CPU, memory, and storage attached to it. We have hybrid models and all flash as well, and we do intelligent tiering for the hybrid models.
Yep. So another piece to that that I want to make sure people are understanding as well, and Paul kind of talked about it just a little bit ago about making sure you're working with your SE around the build that you need. All of these, the Nutanix platform is flexible enough so that you can basically have something that is custom built to the specifications you need to run whichever workload it is you need to run within your data center. And so what that also means is that each time that we talk with you, each time that you talk with us and the Nutanix team, we are taking into consideration all that you're bringing up that has to run on that workload, and making sure that you get the amount of storage space you need, the amount of memory, whether or not you need GPUs and the right GPUs for whatever workload you're using. All of those things are being taken into consideration, and you will be presented an actual build before you end up buying. So we'll size everything out so that you know exactly what you're getting, exactly what the specs are behind it. And we can also show you what that looks like in terms of what it takes to run the workload that you have envisioned running Nutanix for. And so we want to make sure that everybody knows that you're getting a custom solution here. This is not a t-shirt, small, medium, large. This is set up to give you what you need to run the workload that you have envisioned for it. Any questions on that piece of it?
Yeah, again, we have so many different models and use cases for those models. Yeah, we'll size with you appropriately, and we'll get a solution for you guys for sure. Cool. This slide is going over how we're creating, right? We're software-defined storage. So you should only need one storage pool when you create out the environment. Once you create that storage pool, we're going to create containers. For any vSphere customers out there, containers are just our data store. So that's where you house your VM or your QCows or your VMDKs into. You could have one container. Some customers do. You got multiple containers to separate out. Say, for example, you want dedupe on certain VMs, but you don't want dedupe on the others. You can separate out that way. Dedupe and compression are on a container basis, as well as a replication factor, which I'll get into. But you can separate out policies through your containers. Okay. I'll flash this slide really quick, and I'll do it's a slide transition PowerPoint that I usually whiteboard to go over data locality. But data locality is very important to know how we differentiate ourselves from other competitors, even other HCI or even other software-defined storage product out there in the market. Data locality is basically when a VM sits on a server, right? Since it's software-defined, the data itself could reside on maybe node 3 or 4, right? So if you fetch that data, you have to traverse through the network to retrieve that data. Data locality with Nutanix, what that means is wherever the VM resides, it's where the data is going to reside as well on the same node and server. So you're not traversing through the network or anything to retrieve that data. That data will also follow the VM wherever it goes as well. Hence data locality. And it'll make more sense when I throw in that whiteboard PowerPoint. Replication factor, RF2, it's how we protect ourselves from failure, right? We're going to create a copy of that data on another node in case of a node failure. So there's always a copy somewhere else in the environment in case of a failure. Our SEs, we will build out a N+1 scenario or even N+2 scenario with you as well, so we can go up to 2 failure nodes. We also do block awareness and rack awareness as well. So for larger enterprise customers, say for example, someone trips over a cable and it takes down the whole rack, we can do RF2 and send blocks of data to rack number 2. So if one rack goes down, there'll be data on another rack. So that's how we do redundancy and how we do n+1 and n+2 scenarios. Intelligent tiering, again, this is for the hybrid model. We will store data first on SSD on your flash tier. If it's not frequently used, we'll go ahead and auto tier it to your spinning disk. Again, we have all flash models as well. We also do have NVMe flash as well for you. Cool. So this is a slide I want to get into, and then after this, I'll pause for questions and comments. So anatomy of read and writes, this is what I mean by data locality. So in this specific environment, you can see we're running a 3-node cluster. Guest VM sits on node 1. It's always going to write 2 storage on node 1. Notice it didn't write anything on node 2 or 3. That way, if you need to read anything, it's local to that VM. With RF2, we are going to create a copy of that data for failover scenarios. And you can see we're striping that data across the environment to B and C. If we were doing RF3, we can actually do an extra copy of that. So you have 3 copies of your data. With RF3, we do need 5 nodes to start out. Cool. What happens if a CVM goes down? This is why we have multiple CVMs. It's another benefit of having multiple CVMs, controller VMs, right? If a CVM goes down, this is going to read and write. So like I mentioned, what I alluded before, if a VM moves, the data will move with it with data locality. Okay, here we go. So if a CVM goes down, right, they do send heartbeats to each other, so they do work as a team. It'll send heartbeat to controller or VM on node 1, and node is not there. All the metadata are stored in the CVM, so it knows where all the blocks are located. CVM2 will just go ahead and take up this place and manage all the data IO from there until you rebuild the CVM on node 1.
So Paul, we had a question around tiering. Do we get to choose the tiering or is it fixed?
I think it caps maybe at 70%. If it's hit 70% of SSDs, it'll start tiering out to HDD and figure out which one is less infrequently used. You can manually choose as well in a roundabout manner. We have an option called VM commit or flash mode. That's for if you have databases that always need to live on SSD, you can commit that VM or that database to never tear off as well. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Cool. And also this didn't go over, I think it goes over another slide, but if the whole node goes down, DRS will HA kick in, the VM will move to node 2, and all the blocks will move, and it will auto balance that environment. Questions, concern, comments on IO and how data is stored and moved around?
So the one thing that I want to just put out there again is, we've talked through in the past couple slides, we've talked through the changes that happen when a VM moves from one node to another. We've talked about the changes that happen on this slide if a controller VM dies or has some sort of issue where it becomes non-responsive. And we've talked about, which Paul just brought up, what happens when you lose a piece of hardware, a node, or even a rack, we talked about as well. So as we're building, as we're showing you these pieces, I want everybody to see how flexible this is as a solution as a whole, that we can just, breeze through, oh, this is what happens if this thing happens, or this thing dies, or, normally these, potential emergency situations, we're just breezing through, oh yeah, this is what happens, this is how it handles that failure, or this is how it handles, something moving around. So again, it is a very, very flexible solution. There are lots of resilient pieces that are already built in. And I don't want that to go unsaid just because it is happening for you and it is easy on this platform to take care of those things. I don't want you to think that we're not discussing it. It's just automatically happening for you. So just wanted to point that out. And we do have another question, Paul, from around whether or not this would be a good solution for SQL databases.
Absolutely. It's one of our main SQL and Oracle and databases is one of our main workloads that we put on Nutanix. Like I mentioned before, our RCs, or at least myself, I will size SSD appropriately so it will always fit into SSD tier. Because SQL, you need that fast I/O speed, right? Again, as I mentioned, we also have VM flash mode, which will commit your SQL server on that flash tier. And again, we have all flash models as well, if need be. We have another product that's out of the scope of this class called Nutanix Databases. So it's database as a service that we can auto provision out that SQL server for you. We can auto provision, right? We can auto patch as well. And then we can create copy data management. We can create copies and backup of your databases, send it to secondary environment, and then you can do test dev on that SQL or Oracle that you have. But yes, many customers are going to Nutanix because of DBA. Because of the database as a service product running on Nutanix. Cool, good question. Good question for sure.
Very good.
And we can also do another boot camp for databases as well, if that's an interest. ADS is our version of DRS in a nutshell. We're going to, when we create VMs, we're going to place it one by one across the environment. If it's hogging out resources, we'll go ahead and move the VM to another less used node. And that's where it kicks off HA and where all the data migration and vMotion happens is through ADS. But just think of it as another version of DRS within VMware.
Paul, you have one more question come in around ERA. Would this be local databases or the ERA service you mentioned?
Both, so you can use your own database that you built out on Nutanix. ERA, a database as a service, it runs as a virtual appliance that'll provision out those extra or new databases for you. So we can do both. We can house both.
Cool. All right.
I like this slide a lot. So this slide goes over a hardware failure and how we recover, like I mentioned with RF2 and RF3. As SEs, we will build out at least N+1. In this scenario, we have 5 nodes in the cluster, and this is built out as an N+2 environment. So you can have 2 nodes fail, and you still have enough space to fail over 2. So you can see here, VM right now resides on node 1. So you see A, B, and C, and then RF2, it's spread across the environment. But what happens when that node 1 crashes or fails? Boom. ADS or HA will kick in, vMotion and VM over to node 2. And then we're going to auto balance in the background and auto tier and rebalance itself from there. Keep in mind, this is N+2, so we can have another node failure. So again, node crashes, HA, VM over to node 3. Again, we will automatically in the back end, auto rebalance and retier those blocks for you. Question, concern, comments? And this is also how we expand out the cluster. you can see it very simply was add another node. And again, it auto balances the same way as a failure. It'll just spread out and auto balance those blocks for you automatically in the back end. So it's very simple to also expand the cluster, add a node into your rack, put it on top of the rack switch. We'll auto discover it through IPv6. And then yeah, we'll auto balance and auto tier the environment from there. Question, concern, comments. This really hits home with customers because visually you can see what it looks like when you have a node outage and how to rebalance this out your blocks.
So Paul, I got a doozy for you.
Sure.
But what if the VM is using more resources than what can be added to another node?
So when we size out, we normally size out the nodes to be equal to each other. That's the most effective way for a failure scenario, right? When we size out, we size out appropriately, make sure a VM fits on every node, right? With nomenclatures and whatnot. We make sure the memory fits, server, CPU, and storage. This VM fits on every node. The SEs will size out appropriately for you beforehand when that happens.
Yeah, so this is a very nice way of saying we're responsible for making sure that doesn't happen.
Worst case, worst case, right? We'll add another node to it, and we'll just move the VM over to that new node. So
yeah. So again, this comes back to the conversation we had a little earlier, where I said each of these are very much a custom fit for what you need. We are sizing according to what you need, what we anticipate, and making sure that you don't end up in that situation.
Yeah, so I meant to say NUMA boundaries. I don't know why I jumbled my words today. It's a Friday. But yeah, we'll size accordingly to NUMA boundaries and make sure that VM fits accordingly to each server node. That it's not bigger than the other ones, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Very good questions coming in today. So
yeah,
I'm very happy and excited for sure. We also have infinity and anti-infinity roles built into Nutanix. So for example, you have an application and a database that can't fail over or crash at the same time. You can separate out the two, or if you need them together, you can have them together as well on a single node. So we can set up infinity and anti-infinity rules. Okay, we do have built-in backup capabilities. Again, going with XenTegra, we do still recommend you going with an enterprise solution for backups. We partner heavily with Veeam and Haiku. We can also work with Veritas, Commvault, and what have you, right? And if you're using EXSI as a hypervisor, any backup solution that can back up EXSI or Hyper-V, you can use as well. But we do have it built in already in the solution where you can back up depending on your SLAs. Backup can have backup DR can be a whole discussion in itself. Again, we're a solution vendor, and so is XenTegra, a solution VAR. We'll build that accordingly to your SLA needs and your RPOs and RTOs. We'll build that solution accordingly. But the built-in locally, right? We can do local snapshots. You can do snapshots on main site cluster, or you can replicate it to a DR site as well. I mentioned before, we do have built-in connectors to S3, so you don't need another target sent out to S3. We can send it back up directly to S3. You can also do metro availability. So this makes sure all your VMs are synced. So we'll replicate the whole container over to site 2. In case site 1 goes down, your match 1-to-1 with your data. And again, this is the built-in backup, but we have multiple solutions with all the other third-party vendors. What's not included in these slides are our Xi products. So Xi is our DR as a service, another as a service product. We'll send out kind of like fault tolerance VMs out to the cloud, fully hydrated, synchronous. So the main site goes down, we'll power on those VMs out in the cloud, whether it's ours or AWS, and it was pointing you guys to those VMs out in the cloud. So you wouldn't even know an outage happened. And then you can take your time to rebuild that primary site. So that is available as well, called Zentegra, or DR as a service product within Nutanix. So again, multiple solutions. We can go any which way directions you guys like with backup and DR. Question, concern, comments, or any use cases that you guys see, or your current scenario or troubles you guys are running into that we can help out with?
So we had a question on what is the difference between Zentegra and Nutanix clusters on AWS?
So Nutanix cluster on AWS is primary production data. Zentegra is for your DR. That's for all your backup VMs that are, like you mentioned, they're fault tolerant, so they're powered off VMs. They're not going to take up space if you power them on, but it's for failover. Leap is for failover DR scenarios, and then AWS clusters is you're running production on AWS. Hopefully that clarifies a little bit. But you can do, yes, the answer is yes, we can do both.
These questions definitely let me know that we've got a few people on here who are past the one-on-one phase of their Nutanix.
Oh, love it. Please ask the hard questions. Please do. Cool. So we can hear this buzzword a lot about Nutanix is our one-click operations. As all of our engineers know, it might be one or two just to get to the console. But upgrading is super simple with us. We call it our non-disruptive rolling upgrade. So we upgrade per CVM. That way, right, you can do upgrade during production hours. You don't have to do it after work or on your weekends. We'll upgrade one CVM at a time, and then we'll do DRS and move everything to node 2 or 3, and then back to it once we upgrade to the other one. So it's a rolling upgrade, non-disruptive. Again, you can do this anywhere you have internet connectivity. You can upgrade from home, at work. There's a story running around that we have a customer that did an upgrade while flying over the Grand Canyon in a helicopter. You can upgrade almost anywhere seamlessly, and again during production hours as well with that non-disruptive upgrade. It's very simple. You'll see this in the lab. All it is, you go into the upgrade menu, click on AOS. It'll give you the update version, and then it's upgraded from there. We will also do what we call an NCC check, Nutanix health checker, to make sure when you upgrade, everything else works in the environment with that new upgrade. So give you another a layer of the warm and fuzzies that I think is going to work with that upgrade. And again, you can always do snapshots beforehand if you roll back, but you alleviate that problem by doing the NCC check. More and more checks are added to Nutanix. I think when we started out, it was like a couple hundred checks. Now it's like over 1,000 of checks for to make sure your databases work with a new upgrade, your hypervisor ESXi works with a new upgrade, etc. That is about 1,000 or so check that we run through, and we'll let you know beforehand before you do that upgrade. Cool. We can manage multiple hypervisors per cluster. So we can replicate, if you're using VMware, you can replicate to a DR site running AHV. We do have a lot of customers doing this, only because, right, AHV is built in, so you don't have to pay for those extra socket licenses that VMware makes you pay for. So a lot of time customers use AHV on a DR site to avoid paying for those VMware socket licenses. A lot of customers love it so much on DR that they actually switch their primary over to AHV. That's why I was mentioning or alluding to, customers are doing 70 to 80% of our customers now are switching over and adopting to AHV after they try it. And you play around AHV today, you'll see how simple and easy it is to use. We can do hypervised conversion as well, either in flight or at rest. We'll convert EXI over to AHV. And for whatever reason you need to go back, we can flip back as well. Question, concern, comments? I'll take a quick pause. I only have a couple more slides, guys, so if you guys need to do a bathroom break, we're almost there. Cool. And I went over a very quick on cluster expansion. You do this in the lab as well. Again, it's very simple. Add the extra node into your rack, plug into your top of rack switch. Through IPv6, we'll auto discover those nodes and we'll automatically expand the background and auto tier for you from there. Image services, you do this in the lab. Most cases, most IT admins will create their own data store or container to house all their image services. We pre-built that for you, so you can just house all your key cows, your ISOs into image services and build your VMs from there. And you'll see in the lab, there's a section on that to create image services. Cool. Prism Central. So Prism, think of Prism Element as managing a single cluster or a single site. Prism Central can manage multiple Prism elements, hence manage multiple clusters. I like to do a demo for this normally. So let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break, a 10-minute water break or bio break. Come back, I'll do a quick demo for you guys. So let's take a 10-minute break. Let's hop back here. 11:30. Let's hop back at 11:30.
And I've sent lab credentials out to everybody via email. So please let me know if you do not have those yet. I want to make sure you have access to that. All right. See you at 11:30.
We got about a minute left. Harvey, you back?
I am.
Am I sharing the right screen? Just double checking.
You are. I am looking at Prism.
Cool. Let's go ahead and get started. And wherever it trickles in, will trickle in. After this demo, we can take a quick break or just go directly into labs. We'll be doing labs for the most part of the day, but I just want to go over this demo really quick and hopefully make it a little easier in the lab so you can see where everything's located. But what I'm on right now is Prism Central. It is above the scope of this class, but I just want to show you what Prism Central looks like and how it works. So again, Prism Central manages multiple Prism elements or multiple clusters, as you can see here. But we can do a lot more in Prism Central that we can do in Prism Elements. And vice versa, the same thing, right? You can create UVMs from here. Create your containers, just like everything you do in Prism Element, you can do here as well. But in Prism Central, we can do a lot more with operations. So if I go into, let's go to resource planning. This is built into Prism Central. So let's go to capacity runway. If this was a real running environment, you can see here, it's showing me I have more than a year left, but if it's a running environment, it might say a month or two, you're gonna run out of CPU or memory or storage. From there, you can see whether you want to scale up or scale out and expand out your environment. Let's log into the cluster right here and see what it looks like. So again, if this is a real life scenario, this graph will kind of show up and down how much data is being used. And it can predict in the future how much it's gonna grow by. If you go to optimize resources, you can see it's also built-in analytics. You can see how many over-provisioned VMs you have that you can get rid of, or you can power off if they're inactive. Any constraint or noisy bully VMs that you can address. So you can also optimize resources from here as well. So really neat tool. Again, it's for you as a customer to see. But what I think is really neat, if I go back here to planning, you might have saw scenarios. So let's say, for example, you have a project within the next 6 months or a year, you're going to add a brand new workload. Is that workload going to fit into that infrastructure in the coming months? We can test out ahead of time to see if it fits, or if you need to buy more nodes or expand out your environment. So you can test it out here. Again, this is for you as a customer to use. I'll do on an existing cluster, and I'll target it out for the next, so you can see the next 6 months or 2 years. And I'll add in that new project workload that we're going to add in. Any workload you like, SQL, standard VMs, VDI, Splunk. I'm going to go ahead and do VDI. So for example, let's say I know I'm going to add 500 more users to work from home because of the pandemic. And you can see here, in the next 6 months, I'm not going to have enough runway capacity to hit that project that I want. You can go ahead and click recommended, and I'll go ahead and recommend you what hardware or the size of appliance you need to acquire to reach that project target there. Question, concern, comments on that? And again, this is not for us to see, it's for you as a customer to see and look at as well. Question, concern, comments on machine learning and analytics? Oops, I don't want to save that. There's one product within Prism Central that I think is kind of overlooked, is our what we call XPlay. Reason why I said overlook is because we have so many brand new products out there that's also amazing as well. That's kind of overlooking this product that I think hammers home for IT admins in your day-to-day workday, right? So XPlay, again, it's built into Prism Central. XPlay is your IT operation management. It automates your infrastructure for you. Say, for example, a VM uses a lot of resources and then powers off because it ran out of memory or vCPU. We can automatically set alerts and add more resources to that VM automatically for you. You can do it manually as well. Say, for example, you have 100 VMs. Do you need to add a resource? Instead of logging to every VM, you can write a playbook and it'll add resources to all 100 in a single click. That's what I want to demonstrate to you here to you right now. So we have a couple XPlay playbook already pre-built, created when you buy the system, but you can create your own. You can also write scripts as well, so the possibilities are endless. I've seen customers use this for their website to add more load balancers in case there's a lot of users logging into the website, right, and it slows down. It'll automatically add more load balancers to that environment. So I see many things being done with XPlay and IT operation management. Again, we write scripts. The possibilities are endless. You can set alerts when it happens. I'm going to simulate a manual operation here. Here, I'm going to go ahead and manipulate my VM. What you see, you can also do by the host or cluster. So normally you want to acknowledge your alert and send an email, or you can even send a Slack message. I'm sure I saw this here somewhere. Oh, here it is. I won't do this for this demo because it's going to keep shooting me spam emails because it's a demo, right? So I'll skip that step, but you can acknowledge it as first step and then send an email. First step for me, I'm going to go ahead and make sure I power off my VM. Okay, once my VM is powered off, I'm going to demo how to add memory to your VMs. But you can see all the other options we have here. And again, you can also write scripting for this. So let's go ahead and add memory. I'm going to add 1 gigabit to each. And I'm going to set a parameter of 5 so it doesn't go overboard. And let's go ahead and power back on that VM. Oh, here it is. Okay, let's save and close. Let's name it XenTegra add memory. Make sure you enable and save. Cool, so there's the new playbook. And let's go ahead and see it in action. So you'll do this in the lab. You will create first you will create a container. I'm just going to use the default for now, but you create a container and then create your VM and then house that VM in that container. I'm going to go ahead and create a VM here for you guys and then add run that runbook. So create a VM, super simple. Again, a single click there. You can do it in Prism Central or Prism Element. If you do it in Prism Central, select the container, and it'll select the container, the cluster there for you. So let's call this XenTegra VM test. Do 114, let's do 3. So keep an eye on this. See how it's at 3 gigabits right now? I'm gonna go ahead and run that playbook and I'll add it up to 4. And again, I set a parameter to 5, so I won't go over that. But imagine I'm creating 100 of these. That process makes it a lot easier to add memory to each and every one of those VMs. Okay, so this, I want to do it on my container. This is where you select the container you created. And again, you'll do this in the lab. Oh, so by default. Cool. Let me refresh the page. Oh, all right, there it is. So in the bottom is the VM I created, right? So let's go ahead and select it. Under Actions, go to Run Playbook. And then there's the playbook we created and the list of steps that we want to execute. And let's go ahead and run it. You'll see in a second, it'll power back on. And a 3 will become a 4. Let me refresh this as well, just in case. But any question, comments, concerns so far? So there it is. It automatically added 1 gigabit of memory for me, and it powered on that VM. Again, imagine you have like 100 or 1,000 of these VMs, how simple it is. You just click on which VMs you want and run the playbook as a group. Cool, I'll pause there. Questions, comments, concerns?
Can it get more complicated than simply adjusting settings of the VM?
Yes.
We have like a dev QA UAT type workflow. What we were hoping to be able to do is automate cloning a handful of the production machines back into a QA state.
Yes.
And then let them, mess them up and then delete them when they're done.
So the answer is yes. Again, you can write those scripts.
Cool.
We also have another product called Calm that also enhances your capabilities. We have customers that do automated cloning, like you mentioned. So the answer is yes. We'll help you and work with you or XenTegra to create that step and process. But the answer is yes. We can do that. Cool. Good question. Good question for sure. Let me go home here. But in a lab, you'll actually go into Prism Elements. Let's see if they can log into it. So Prism Element looks like the same thing. Again, you can do either or. Prism Elements 1 cluster. Prism Central is multiple clusters. If you go here in the gearbox, this is where you can do your rolling upgrade. You can see it. I did 2 clicks. But 1-click operation, upgrade the software, file server, hypervisor, the etc check. Foundation is how we do our install. If you're running EXXI, this is where you register your Prism Central. And in the lab, you'll go ahead and create your storage container from here. Should only have one, I guess it's a lab, but it should only have one storage pool. Yep. And then you'll create your storage container from here. Once you create that storage container, go over to VM. And you'll create your VM and then choose that container to house that QCow or VMDK. Under new disk, this is where you select that the container. Cool. And I think it also goes through data protection in the labs as well. You'll see you're going to create a protection domain. And protection domains are just, you can group, right, your databases together, your VMs together, or everything together at once. That's where you can select which is your mission critical, how often you want to back up, every hour, every minute, etc. from here. And what DR site you want to replicate to is through the protection domains. Cool. Question, concern, comments? If not, we can just dive right into labs the rest of the time.
At this point, does everybody have their email with the lab credentials and the link for the lab instructions? I believe everybody should have it at this point, but I want to double check. All right. Okay, good. Nathan, glad you got it. Paul, we got a question around VMs and protection domains. Are new VMs added to protection domains automatically, or is this a manual process?
You would have to add them into the protection domain. That's where you create your policies and whatnot for your group of VMs. So you can separate out certain VMs have different SLAs. You separate out by those protection domains. So yeah, you have to add them in. And again, that's just our built-in backup and snapshots. We still partner with Veeam, Haiku, what have you, as well. While you guys do the labs, I'll pop on a slide. Let me pull up here in a second on all the different products we have on top of HCI. So I will allude to that we can do 3 modes in Nutanix, right? We can do block, we can do file. We can also do objects. So you can back up to a Nutanix object cluster for backups, or archive, or whatever you need as well. Cool. Any other question, concern, comments while Harvey gets you guys connected to the labs? Let me log into the lab instruction to show you guys, navigate you guys through. Cool. You should get a link to the lab guide as long as with the lab, how to access the lab. Once you log into the lab guide, this is what it looks like. First one here is kind of a lot of information, kind of what I went through before. Again, this lab guide is for you to keep forever. So you guys can go back and relook at whatever info you need. But the lab actually starts on storage configuration. Here should be going through how to create the storage container. And you'll send your network, deploy a Windows or Linux machine. Once you get into this deploy workload section, if you want to build out a Linux machine, go into optional labs. And in optional labs is where you're going to upload a Linux ISO into the image services I went over during the PowerPoint. But just know if you get stuck on the Linux portion, go into optional labs. You're going to have to upload the Linux ISO. We built the labs around how to teach you to upload things to image configuration. But just notice that when you get there. But yeah, just go through it step by step. Make sure you don't skip any lines. Most part when people trip up is when they read too fast and skip a couple steps. Do follow step by step. And again, I'm here until maybe 2 or 3, most likely 2. And you guys have this lab until 11 p.m. To play around with. Cool. Let us know if you guys have any troubles logging into this or into the lab environment itself. Cool. Harvard, did you send out info to everyone?
I did. I think at this point, I think everyone has it. We got one who couldn't get through because of a work filter, so we're still checking to see if there's another
everyone's not able to get through to the lab because of the work filter.
So all of you are in the same spot. Okay. Let's see. I'm assuming a different network is not an option for you. So then,
Is it a lab guide or the frame link?
It's our security here that's blocking it, our firewalls and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So
another option for you guys, I do have a test drive.
mm-hmm.
It is on Rails, so it kind of guides you through like an interactive demo instead of an open environment you can play around. But if anything, we can play around in that as well for the ones that can't log in. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
I'll put it in the chat.
Let's see.
I just put in the chat the link. So for anyone who can't access the labs because of firewall, open up this link. Go here, build private cloud, put it in your work email, and it'll spin up a Nutanix cluster for you, hosted within 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Again, this one is kind of on Rails, so it's like I said, it's like interactive experience than a full-blown POC box that we have for other people. But also, other products we have here that you can play around with as well. So for anyone else,
let me give you another link to try too, in case you can still get to this. So where they seem to be having the problem, Paul, is the link to get to
the lab guide.
A frame.
Oh.
So I'm sending them the link for Parallels. See if that works.
aha, username and password.
All right.
Yeah, make sure you use the username that was given to you so you don't step on anyone else's toes. And once you guys log into it, open up a Google browser and then add in that cluster IP to log into Prism Element.
I see a thumbs up. That's success. That's wonderful. See, I can't fix the firewall, but might have other ways.
Yeah, rest of the time is labs. If you have question, concerns, put in chat or open mic and ask us. I'll be here until like 2-ish. Again, the labs are open until 11.
Yep. And I am jumping off in a few minutes. I know that makes a lot of people sad, but I'm leaving you in the wonderfully capable hands of Paul and Mr. Patrick Toner. So I'll say before I depart that I definitely appreciate all of you guys jumping on with us today. No applications found. But yeah, keep moving through the labs, and both Paul and Patrick will be on here to make sure that you guys can get through. Herman, I am checking into yours right now.
You might be on Parallels. Parallels is running into issues with that. Frame works.
Okay.
If you can get frame.
Well, they couldn't get to frame. That's where they were having the issue with the
Oh,
yeah.
are you able to get test drive to work? Log into the test drive link.
So Herman, the test drive link is the one that Paul posted, nutanix.com/one-platform, one-platform. Can you test that one?
I didn't get around to trying that before the Parallels link was posted.
All right, perfect. Let's test that and see whether or not you can do that. Okay, good. You can see the test drive environment. That is good.
Is anyone else having trouble getting to frame? Again, once you log into Frame, open up Google browser and type out the whole cluster IP from HTTPS to the address down to pound login. Make sure you don't skip any words or letters to get in. And then from there, credentials admin and then the password. Okay, you can't get into Frame. Just use a test drive.